Welcome to another exciting episode of Rogue Finances and Life, where we are life and financially sound. For today's episode, I have my guest, Mr. Rich Lewis. He's an author, a speaker, and a coach who focuses on century prayer as a means of inner transformation. He teaches century prayer in both his local and virtual community and offers one-on-one coaching. Rich newest book is titled Sitting with God, A Journey to Our True Self-Centered Prayer. So without further ado, here's Mr. Rich Lewis.
Great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll share something with your community that'll be new to them, but maybe something that some of them will want to try and see, try it and experience it for themselves.
Yeah, well, thank you for being available. Hold on. So, as I said, and you talk about century prayer. So, can you expound a little bit more on what is century prayer?
Sure. So, centering prayer has been around for about 50 years. It was actually monks, so 3 Catholic priests. There were the non-Christian Father William Manager discovered kind of the method of centering prayer. He was reading an old classic book from the 12th century called The Cloud of Unknowing. And as he read the book, kind of jumping out of the pages as he read it was really a method of silent, wordless prayer that he found. So he and the other priests began, and I'll talk about how you do it. He and the other priests began doing it. They began sharing it with other clergy. They began sharing it with lay people. And then in 1984, about 10 years later, the Contemplative Outreach Organization was created, which is really the main centering prayer organization. So if you go to contemplativeoutreach.org, on the internet, you'll see a huge website with a ton of resources on centering prayer and groups that practice internationally as well as in the United States. So centering prayer has been around for 50 years, and it's really considered 2 things. It is considered meditation, but it's also considered a relationship with God, because during centering prayer, we believe we're sitting with God and we're opening to the presence and actions of God within us during this time. And we don't think we're God, but we believe God is within us, and God is acting within us during this time at a deeper level. So it's wordless at a deeper level beyond words and thoughts and images. So would it be helpful if I just quickly shared how you do it so people can understand how do you go about doing centering prayer?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you sit comfortably with your eyes closed, and then to begin your silent sit, you interiorly introduce a word, what we call a sacred word of 1 or 2 syllables. So it could be love, Jesus, God, trust, faith, ocean, a color. And that really just signifies you're beginning your silent sit and you're opening to the presence and actions of God within. And then as you're sitting there, when you engage your thoughts, and what I mean by that is when you begin thinking about all the things you did before you sat down to sit, or you begin thinking about all the responsibilities or errands you might need to run after your sit, you realize you're no longer sitting with God, you're sitting with yourself, and you're planning and you're plotting. So then you reintroduce interiorly that sacred word to come back to the present moment and the purpose of your sit, let go of these engaged thoughts, and then let go of the sacred word as well. So you're just using this when needed to keep bringing yourself back to the present moment and back to the purpose of your sit, of just sitting with God and letting God act in us at a deeper level beyond our thoughts and emotions. So it's really silent, wordless prayer, and an opening to God within us. So you repeat that when you need to. So you don't use it as a mantra. You don't use the sacred word as a mantra. You just use it when needed to bring yourself back to the present moment for however long you chose to sit, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. So again, centering prayer is two things. It is meditation, but it's really fostering a relationship with God at a deeper level beyond words and thoughts. And then by all means, don't give up your other types of prayer. Complement it with silent prayer. So if you pray verbally, that's perfectly fine. Complement it with silent, wordless meditation, such as centering prayer.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So, like you said, so this is not a replacement for prayer. This is just a complement to the other prayers.
Exactly. And I pray other ways too. So it's not the only way I pray, but it's for me, that's how I begin my day. The first thing I do before I do anything is a silent sit with God. And I try to go from anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes each time. And that's how I begin my day. And I've been doing it that way for 8-9 years now. And it's just, for me, it's a great way just to sit with God and start the day.
Now, let's say, like for a person like me that I still have my 9 to 5 and I still work at an office, would I be able to, like when I'm sitting at the office, can I just take a moment to do a century prayer, like 10, 20 minutes while sitting at the office, even if I don't close my eyes, or I will have to close my eyes?
No, you could do it in an office, and you don't have to close your eyes for centering prayer. Some people don't want to close their eyes, and they keep them open, and they just kind of stare at a spot 5 or 6 feet in the distance. So you can do centering prayer with your eyes open or with your eyes closed. And I encourage people to. Right now I'm working from home, and my job became 100 remote as a result of COVID, but I was going into an office too pre-COVID over 2 years ago. So my first sit was first thing in the morning, and then I would drive to work. My second sit was actually in the parking lot at work. I would walk to my car and do a sit in my car in the driver's seat. But so you could do it in your car if you're able to do that, or you could do it if there's I guess you could do it at your desk, depending. Entering prayer.
Okay, well, that sounds great. So now you talk about, you teach people how to find their true self, right? To century prayer. So how did a person find a true self, and what is somebody's true self?
Sure. So your true self, I believe, is really the person that God wants you to be now and in the future. So if you think about centering prayer, you're letting go of your engaged thoughts. And what happens is outside of centering prayer, you also begin to let go of thoughts and emotions that you tell yourself. So you might tell yourself, I'm not confident, when that's not true. Or you might tell yourself, I'm the wrong person for this task, or I'm too old to try this, someone younger should do it, or I don't have enough wisdom or experience. And these are all things we tell ourselves that really aren't true. So you learn to let go of all these things we tell ourselves and connect to the person that you really should be and want to be, but sometimes scare yourself from not being. So centering prayer has a nice way of connecting you to your true self. What does this person look like? What are the actions this person should be taking? And let go of all the harmful things you tell yourself that really are not true, but stop you from trying and doing and exploring new things, or even just getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new that you've always wanted to do but are afraid to. So that's what I mean by connecting to your true self. It's really the person you're intended to be, but sometimes you don't let yourself be.
Got you. And so now I like I said earlier, you are the author of a new book called Sitting with God: A Journey to Your True Self. So how did you come about writing the book?
Sure. So I had discovered centering prayer in really late 2013 through a book called Healing the Divide, Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots. Amos Smith wrote that book, and I found it on Amazon. And as I began reading it, he talked about a practice called centering prayer that he had been doing for about 15 years. So that immediately intrigued me. So I reached out to him started doing the practice for myself, and then just began a back and forth email dialogue with Amos. And then we became friends. I began working with him on his website before I had my existing website, and we still work together. But Amos actually is the one that challenged me to write a book. His book was out, and he said his book was more of an academic standpoint, and he thought it would be nice if I wrote a book from my standpoint. He was a pastor, and his book was a little bit more academic, and he thought it would be neat if I tried to write a book for ordinary people that go into an office and want to practice centering prayer. So I'll blame it on Amos, but I'm glad I did. I mean, he challenged me to write a book, and I took him up on it, and he kind of served as a nice mentor for the process, since he had published one book, was in the middle of getting a second book published. So he served as a really great mentor for publishing a book, but also a mentor for centering prayer. So that's how the book came about. I'll blame it on Amos, but I'm glad he nudged me to do it, to be honest with you.
That sounds awesome. Now, we all know that, well, a lot of us that read and study the Bible, we know that, and the Bible talks about the fruits of the Spirit. So now, what will be the fruits of centering prayer?
Sure. I think the neat thing about it is they're unique for each practitioner. So what I've noticed, and what other people that practice centering prayer will notice, is that the fruits are unique for each practitioner. And God seems to know what each person needs. So since I've been practicing centering prayer since late 2013, I've noticed a ton of fruits for myself, such as confidence that I didn't have before. I'm more willing to get out of my comfort zone and try and do new things, which are many of the things that I'm doing right now, such as my website, the one-on-one coaching I do, the speaking I do, getting on podcasts, the writing the book that I wrote, and I'm in the midst of just beginning to write my second book. So these are all things that I just never would have had the courage and confidence to do. I would say I have an excitement for life that I didn't have before. I'm more excited about each day and what will each day present. Centering prayer has helped me be less reactive. And what I mean by that is I think I'm more willing just to listen to people and give them the space they deserve instead of reacting to them and rendering an opinion. So those are a couple of fruits that I've definitely noticed about myself since I've been practicing centering prayer.
That's awesome. Now, besides centering prayer and regular prayer, do you recommend any kind of self-improvement books that somebody else can also read besides your book?
Sure. So I guess when I first started practicing centering prayer and learning about it, two books that immediately were very helpful for me were Centering Prayer and Inner Awakening by Cynthia Bourgeault, and then Thomas Keating's Open Mind, Open Heart. Both of these were books, and both of these are people that have been at it much longer than me. So those were both very helpful books for me as I began practicing centering prayer and learning more about it. And then as I was at it for a little bit, I also, The Path of Centering Prayer by David Fournette was a great book for me because it talked more about deepening your practice and going deeper in it. So that was helpful a couple years later as I had been practicing it. So those are three books that, at least for me, I found very helpful with my centering prayer journey.
That's great. I would definitely check them out myself. And I know for sure some of my audience want to check them out. But this has been very enlightening. I have learned a lot about centering prayer, which like I said, I kind of Googled it myself, but now I'm glad that I have somebody to explain it more to me. And I definitely will start, incorporating that into my life.
No, and for people that it's brand new to, I recommend, try it for 30 days, make it the first thing you do in the morning, and just try it for 1 to 5 minutes, and try it for 30 and see how it feels and how it works for you. So I wouldn't suggest jump right into 20 minutes of silence in the morning. That may be too much, but try it for 30 days and just try it in a small dose of 1 to 5 minutes and just see what happens after 30 days and see if it's something you want to continue.
Definitely. Most definitely. So Your book is called Sitting with God, A Journey to Your True Self through Centered Prayer, right?
That's correct.
Where can somebody, if somebody wants to buy it, where can somebody find that book?
Sure. Well, it's available on Amazon, or if you come to my website, silenceteaches.com, you'll see it on my website as well. But it's really available on Amazon and most online bookstores, such as Target or Walmart or Barnes and Noble. It's on many of the online booksellers as well.
Now, when it comes to your one-on-one coaching, do you do one-on-one coaching for people only? Do you do it online or do you do it like person-to-person meeting? How do you do your one-on-one coaching?
I mean, I guess if the person lived near me, I would be more than willing to do it, face to face, live. But I guess most of the people I coach, we do it on Zoom, or it's a phone call, or some people like doing it on Facebook. So most of the people are somewhere else in the country, so it's usually a phone call or a Zoom call. But if someone happened to be near me and wanted to do it live, I would have no issue with it. I just haven't come across that yet, but I'm more than willing to do that if I find out it's a neighbor that wants me to help them out.
Great. So now, for those people that might be interested in one-on-one coaching, how do we reach you?
Sure. The best place would be on my website. So if you look on my website, there's a one-on-one coaching page, and they could reach out to me. And I tend to help. What I've noticed, at least 3 different types of people have come to me for help. One, it's people this idea of centering prayer is brand new, and they want someone to show them the ropes. How do you get started? How do I make this a repeatable, sustainable practice? The second type of person is someone that's been doing it, but they just think maybe I'm just skimming the surface and I'm not really connecting to my true self, the person God wants me to be. And I think I want to go deeper, and I just feel like I'm not there. So I help people, those type of people. And then the third type of people I've helped are the pastors of churches have come to me to say, they're burning out and they need help creating a centering prayer practice. Otherwise, they're going to be of no use to the people they serve at their church. So I've helped them begin a practice and and do a better job taking care of themselves, self-care of themselves. Because if they burn out, they're going to be of no use to anybody, specifically their congregation. So I've noticed with my one-on-one coaching that people tend to fall in one of those 3 categories.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you for being available. I really have learned a lot about centered prayer. I know for sure somebody in my audience is gonna be help with this, especially like nowadays. The world is going crazy. Everything that God has taught as everything that God mentions or said that is sin, the world is telling us it's not as good. So I know there are people out there that need an encouraging word, and I know this will be an encouraging word for somebody. Like I said, thank you for being available. Any in closing thoughts that you want to give?
No, thanks for having me on. And I would just say, I would encourage people to try it. Try what I call a daily dose of silence. Try it for 30 days. Make it the first thing you do before you begin your day and do anything. And just try it for 1 to 5 minutes and see what happens.
Amen. Okay, well, like I said, thank you once again. This is all the time we have for today. I hope you guys find this episode informative, encouraging, and something that you can learn from. Like you said, you can reach Mr. Reach at his website, which is
silenceteaches.com.
silenceteaches.com. And well, like I said, continue to be blessed. And until we hear next time, see ya.